The year is 732, and somewhere in France, two armies are about to collide. One force comes from the north, led by the Frankish mayor of the palace, Charles Martel. The other force comes from the south, under the Umayyad general Abdul-Rahman Al-Ghafiqi. And between these two very different armies is a small river called the Tours. But before we get into the battle, first, who were the Umayyads, and why did they invade Frankish territory? The Umayyad Caliphate was one of the largest empires in the medieval world, stretching from Spain in the west to Persia in the east. At its peak, it was a truly cosmopolitan empire, ruling over Muslims, Jews, Christians, Zoroastrians, and many other religious groups. But despite this, the empire was still fundamentally Arab, and Islam was an important aspect of imperial identity. And so, when the Umayyads conquered the Iberian Peninsula, they were keen to push further north into Gaul. This wasn't just a desire to expand their territory, but also an attempt to spread their religion. The leader of the invading force, Abd al-Rahman al-Ghafiqi, was a general in the service of the Umayyad Caliphate and a client king of the Visigoths. He had already forged a reputation as a brilliant military commander, having previously defeated the Burgundians, the Aquitanians, and the Basques. But his greatest challenge would come from the Franks. When he invaded their territory in 731, he commanded an army of around 40,000 men. By comparison, the Frankish army that met him on the battlefield was much smaller, numbering around 3,000 men. So why did the little-known Frankish army defeat such a large and experienced force? Let's find out. Fact: no one. The Battle of Tours was a clash of civilizations. For the Umayyads, the invasion of Frankish territory was part of a wider campaign to spread Islam across Europe. In contrast, for the Franks, the battle was about defending their Christian homeland from a foreign invader. This clash of civilizations was one of the most important aspects of the battle, and would have been understood as such by the soldiers on both sides. It's no surprise then that later writers, particularly those writing in the Frankish court, emphasized the religious dimensions of the conflict. Fact number 2. The Umayyad invasion was led by Abdul-Rahman al-Ghafiqi. Abdul-Rahman al-Ghafiqi was a brilliant military commander who had already forged a reputation as a conqueror. However, he would meet his match at the Battle of Tours. Despite his military brilliance, Al-Ghafiqi would ultimately be defeated by the Franks, and this defeat would have a profound impact on his legacy. While he was celebrated as a conqueror by some, others would remember him as the man who failed to conquer the Franks. Ultimately, Al-Ghafiqi's legacy would be shaped by the memory of the Battle of Tours. Fact number 3. Charles Martel, the Hammer, led the Franks. Charles Martel was the mayor of the palace and de facto ruler of the Frankish kingdom. Despite being a member of the Frankish nobility, Charles Martel was not a king. In the early medieval period, the Frankish kings were usually weak and ineffective rulers who relied on the power of the nobles. And so the office of mayor of the palace, which Martel held, was a very powerful one. Martel was known as the Hammer, and this nickname reflected his brutal and effective military style. He would go on to become one of the most important figures in Frankish history, and his victory at the Battle of Tours would cement his legacy. Fact number 4. The battle's location is still debated. Although the battle is named after the city of Tours, it's not certain that the battle took place there. In fact, there are several places in the region where the battle could have taken place. This uncertainty is partly because the sources are vague about the location of the battle. They only provide us with some general descriptions of the terrain, which could apply to several places in the region. As a result, historians have put forward several different locations for the battle, and the debate over where the battle took place is still ongoing. Fact no. 5. The battle was a defensive stand. The Frankish army was outnumbered and outmatched, but they made good use of the terrain. They chose a location near a river that was difficult for cavalry to cross, which negated the Umayyad advantage in this area. They also used the trees to their advantage, launching hit-and-run attacks on the enemy. In addition, the Frankish army was well-disciplined and fought with determination. They were able to hold their ground against the repeated assaults of the Umayyads and eventually emerged victorious. Fact number 6. A rumor turned the tide, according to some sources. A rumor spread through the ranks of the Umayyad army that the Frankish king was planning to pay them to surrender. This rumor seems to have had an effect on the morale of the Umayyad soldiers, who began to believe that the battle was hopeless. The rumor may have been started by the Franks to try to break the will of their enemies, or it may have been a case of rumor control. In any event, the rumor seems to have played a role in the outcome of the battle. Fact number 7. The victory cemented Charles Martel's legacy. The victory at the Battle of Tours was one of the most important of Charles Martel's career. It established him as a brilliant military commander and as a champion of the Christian faith. The victory also helped to consolidate his power in the Frankish kingdom. Martel's opponents within the kingdom were weakened, and he was able to assert his authority over the other nobles. As a result, Martel was able to create a stable and prosperous Frankish kingdom that would serve as the foundation for the Carolingian Empire of his grandson, Charlemagne. Fact no. 8. The battle's significance is debated by historians. Historians debate the significance of the Battle of Tours. Some see it as a pivotal moment in history, a battle that stopped the advance of Islam into Europe and allowed Christianity to flourish. Others see it as a minor event, a battle that had little lasting impact on the course of history. The truth is likely somewhere in between. The battle certainly didn't stop the advance of Islam into Europe. The Umayyad Caliphate would continue to hold territory in Spain for centuries. But the battle did prevent Islam from spreading into Gaul and the rest of Western Europe, and it did help to set the stage for the Carolingian Empire, which would become the dominant power in Western Europe in the 8th and 9th centuries. Fact number 9. The battle had long-term consequences. The Battle of Tours had far-reaching consequences that were felt for centuries. It set the stage for the Christianization of Europe and the Muslim conquest of Spain. It also helped to lay the foundations for the Carolingian Empire, which would play a major role in European history. Additionally, the battle had a profound impact on the development of Islam in Europe. After the battle, Muslims were forced to retreat from Gaul and the rest of Western Europe, which prevented Islam from taking root in these regions. As a result, Islam in Europe would be confined to Spain and the Balkans for centuries. Fact 10. The Battle of Tours lives on in memory. The Battle of Tours has been remembered and commemorated for centuries. In the aftermath of the battle, the Frankish chronicler, Gregory of Tours, wrote a detailed account of the battle, which helped to shape later memories of the event. During the Middle Ages, the battle was often used as a symbol of the struggle between Christianity and Islam. And this continued during the Crusades, when the battle was used to justify the Christian campaign to recapture Jerusalem. In more recent times, the battle has been commemorated with monuments and memorials, and it continues to be an important part of the collective memory of France and other European nations. In conclusion, the Battle of Tours was a pivotal moment in history. It marked the end of the Umayyad Caliphate's attempts to conquer Gaul, and it helped to set the stage for the Christianization of Europe. The battle was a close-fought affair, but the victory went to the Frankish army, led by Charles Martel. The battle has had long-term consequences that are still felt today, and it remains an important part of the collective memory of Europe. Now it's time for you to make your voice heard. What fact surprised you the most? Do you know about the Battle of Tours beforehand? And what do you think the outcome of the battle would have been if the roles of the two armies had been reversed? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching.